Hello and welcome to everybody that is joining us here today for how to grow your Twitter following and become the badass of your industry. I'm Rebecca Radice. I am Global Brand Ambassador for Post Planner, and I am joined today by the lovely Diana Adams. And we just are thrilled to death to be here, sharing some great information on how to quickly get yourself up and running, whether you're just getting started with Twitter or really looking to reboot Twitter. We've got lots of great information we're going to share. And like I said, we do have a hashtag that we'd love you to use. So feel free to share any of the tips, anything we talk about here today. The hashtag is viral webinar. You can find me on Twitter at Rebecca Radice. And of course, my name, not super easy to spell. So there it is for you. And then Post Planner, who is hosting this wonderful webinar today. And then, as I said, I am joined by Diana Adams, who you can find on Twitter at Adams Consulting. And Diana is just a Twitter user powerhouse. If you have not met Diana before, make sure to follow her because she has more energy than any, I'd say, 10 people combined. And you're definitely going to feel that energy and just get to hear all that she's learned over the years in building up her Twitter following to Diana, where are you at now? You have, I believe, well over 100,000 followers. And not to point out numbers, because we're definitely going to make that point here today that it's more about the conversation and the relationship than the numbers, but that is a huge accomplishment.
Thank you. I think it's about 130 something thousand now, which it blows my mind every time I see that. But you're right. It's not about the numbers. It is not about that.
So here's what we're going to cover today because we're going to dive right in. We've got a lot to talk about, so we're going to move pretty quickly. We're going to talk about how you can optimize Twitter to maximize your results, really get the most out of everything that you're doing on Twitter on a daily basis, how to make connections to grow your following and do it quickly, but do it really strategically, as I talked about. Build a loyal and enthusiastic audience, an audience that just they are dying to share your content. And then how to discover and share viral content no matter your industry, because I know that that is one of the top questions I get asked all the time is, I don't know where to find content or I don't know what I should be sharing. And so we're going to talk about that and kind of dispel some of the mystery behind that. And then how to market your business like a boss, because at the end of the day, if you are on Twitter for business, you definitely need to be talking about your business, your product, your service. And I know a lot of people shy away from that. And there definitely has to be a balance. You have to find that happy place where you're not just spamming your Twitter feed with a whole bunch of promotional content, but that you're offering valuable content that your audience wants to share, but also wants to consume, that they want to keep coming back every single day to learn more, to get to know you more, and really take that relationship a little bit deeper. So here's where we're going to start out. We are going to dive right into how to optimize Twitter and really make sure that no matter who's connecting with you, they know exactly who you are and what you're all about. And your bio, getting your bio in tip top shape is the first place that you should look. And oddly enough, it's not necessarily the first place that everybody looks as they get started. I think a lot of people hop in, they dive in, they don't have a purpose, they don't have a plan, don't have any real idea why they're using Twitter. And so your bio is just kind of haphazard. You threw it at the wall, hoped it sticked. It doesn't really say a whole lot about you. And so you want to make sure that as people are landing there on your Twitter, and I'm getting some feedback. Diana, are you muted? You might want to.
Yes, I am muted. Yes.
Okay. If you're not hearing, and I apologize, I just want to make sure we're not having any tech issues. But if you're not getting feedback, then it must just be me. All right, so getting your bio in tip-top shape. Like I was saying, this is where people are going to land first. It's the first stop for any potential followers, anybody that's trying to figure out who you are, what you do, and whether or not they really want to click that follow button. And when was the last time that you really did a little bit of housekeeping, that you looked through yours from the eyes of those people that you want to connect with? And so we want to help you kind of take a step backwards, take a moment to look through your bio, to look through your profile and figure out what could you do, what tweaks could you make just to make it that much better and help people make that decision to hit that follow button. So the first one is load up your profile pic. How many of us have seen this? And Diana or Leanne, and I apologize, guys. We're definitely getting some feedback, so somebody is not muted. Load up your profile pic. You don't want to be an egghead. Keep your profile pic consistent across all of your social channels. And we've all seen those Twitter profiles with that egg, which, what does that say to you? Next. Probably not somebody you're going to want to follow because they haven't taken the time to even update their pictures. So look through your other social channels. Look at Facebook. Look at Instagram. Make sure that what you're doing there is consistent. And the reason behind this is you want to make it just super simple for people to be able to identify with who you are and then instantly be able to connect the dots between all of your social channels and make that decision rather quickly to go ahead and click that follow button. And then the next is make the most of your space. So you only have, or you I guess you could look at muted characters to use within your bio. So make sure that what you put in there is unique, what problems you solve is within there, and then determine how you can best share all of that goodness about you. So what is it that you do? What is it that you're tweeting about? And Steve Keating, just one of my absolute favorite people on Twitter, and oddly enough, one of the first people I started following when I got on Twitter. I think we started about the same time. I love his bio because it's very easy to see improving the sales profession, developing the next generation of leaders, not selling a thing on Twitter, only giving back. Okay, how great is that? So just think about how can you succinctly get across what it is that you do, what you're all about, what your purpose is on Twitter, what kind of content you're going to be sharing, what people are going to learn about you or about your industry. And then we all know people connect with people. So make your bio as relatable and approachable as possible. Aaron Lee is on the Post Planner team. And if you don't know Aaron, just an amazing guy to connect with on Twitter. His bio says, Grandmaster of Customer Delight, which I just love his title anyway, but trying to perfect the art of making cappuccino while running a business, introvert with awesome hair. So what can you see here? You can feel Aaron's personality, you can get his sense of humor, you can really start to understand what Aaron is all about. And pretty lighthearted guy, likes to laugh, have a good time, but also takes his business very seriously. So start to think about what words you can incorporate into your bio that, yeah, they talk about what you do, they talk about who you are, but they also share some of those relatable pieces. I call them coffee table conversations on social media, where there are those little tidbits that we put out there that allow people to have those coffee table type conversations with us where I could reach out and go, oh my gosh, Erin, total cappuccino aholic, love my coffee, can't live without it. So they allow you to go a little bit deeper, have a conversation around something you're both passionate about, and be able to start talking about those things that you're probably talking about or thinking about every single day, and take them and make yourself approachable to those people that are looking to connect with you. Next is share your super duper awesomeness. So help others get to know you. Share what it is that really makes you special. What is it that makes you tick? What makes you get out of bed every single day? And Ross Quintana, just one of my favorite guys that I've connected with on social media, and I know Diana would say the same. He's got here thought changer strategist, startups, social media marketing, hired gun, outsider, insider. He just goes on in his typical kind of funny way. But you see what he's done here is he shares a lot of his specialties, a lot of his unique abilities. He shares what his focus is, what he's talking about. He even incorporates some hashtags within there, which we're going to talk about how to best use those. But he does it all in a very conversational tone. So he's just making it very, very easy for people to just instantly know if they want to connect with him, if they want to follow him, if they want to get interactive with him. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to share, as I said, that super duper awesomeness about you that's really special and unique to you. That will be fun for people to get to know just a little bit more about you. Next up, and one of the topics that is really near and dear to my heart, is getting branded. And this is such a missed opportunity on social media and Twitter, especially, where there is that huge billboard that you have of a cover photo that you need to be using as a representation, a direct representation of your business. So take what you're doing across all of your other social channels, across your website, across your blog, and really start to look at what is going to be that look and feel that is going to best represent my company, my business, maybe my product, my app, my service. How can I get that across within that cover photo? And so we all know Starbucks, right? Instantly identifiable. We know their logo. We just can pretty much pick up on their marketing, their branding, no matter what channel we're looking at. And Starbucks uses their cover photo in a unique way. They're just simply showing the what is probably one of their top sellers, which is the pumpkin spice latte, and so they're getting specific to the actual time of the year, so to fall, to pumpkins here in the US, to Halloween. So many different representations are found right here within their cover photo. So think about how you can express all that you are, all that your business is through your cover photo. And next up is Marsha Collier. Marsha is another person that does just a wonderful job, not only on Twitter. And if you're not following her, it's at Marsha Collier. And you definitely want to get interactive with her. I've never seen anybody that just manages so many conversations at once as Marsha. And what Marsha has done with her cover photo is she's using her images and some specific elements to showcase her accomplishments. So she has written, and I'm going to get it wrong, but just oodles and oodles of books, and they're all the for dummy books, so mostly centered around eBay. And so you see her here on her cover photo that she has a big old list of all of those ebook for dummies books that she's written. So you land on her profile, you see her cover, and you go, oh, she's the eBay lady. She's the one that I've watched her videos and I followed her, and so you just know immediately what Marcia is all about. And then Jed Record, another guy who clearly expresses what he does. Don't be afraid to put that in your cover photo. Don't be afraid to talk about what your business does, what problems you solve for your customers, what you're going to be talking about. So he uses hashtags here: leadership, social media marketing, entrepreneurship, to help people take that next step, to help people be able to click that follow button. And then Peg Fitzpatrick, I can't imagine there's anybody on this webinar right now that doesn't know Peg, but Peg is just a master at branding across all of her social channels. And what she does brilliantly is streamline her look and feel across every single social network. So her Twitter account is in direct alignment with her website, with her blog, with everything else she's doing. So make sure you're keeping all of that consistent. You don't want people to see one thing on Twitter and then something else over on Facebook and Google Plus, and everywhere they go, it's a little bit different. So they're not completely sure if it's you. And any hesitation, you know what's going to happen. They're going to click away and they're going to move away. And unfortunately, you might have lost them forever. So take that opportunity to draw that line between who you are over here on your website, your blog, and everywhere else, every other social property or channel you have online. And then don't forget your keywords. As I mentioned, your keywords are those hashtags, as well as anything that has to do with maybe your industry, maybe that niche that you're working within. And all of those words are searchable keywords. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to spam your bio. You don't want to shove a whole bunch of keywords, or you don't want to shove a whole bunch of hashtags in there. You want to make it conversational, but you do want to make sure you get those in there so that, as you know, maybe people are using Twitter Advanced Search, which we'll talk a little bit about, that you're giving people that opportunity to find you as they're searching within Twitter. So Misty McPadden has done exactly that. She uses entrepreneur, writer, digital video producer, project manager, designer, everything that she does on a daily basis, and anything that a potential client might be looking for across Twitter is what she's got in here. She also has at Podjam TV, so people could bounce over and connect with that Twitter handle as well. And then with Marty McPadden, so she includes that Twitter handle of her significant other as well, and then a hashtag. So as you can see, she's got a nice little mix, a nice variation, but it clearly expresses who she is. So if I'm not interested in somebody that is possibly sharing entrepreneur type information, digital video, maybe project manager type information, or social media, I can see that and I can make that determination as to whether or not this is somebody that makes sense for me to connect with. So really use those keywords in a very strategic and specific way, and in a way that naturally allows people to connect with you. But not only naturally allows people to connect with you, but allows that search to find you on behalf of those keywords or those hashtags as people are out there looking for you. So it's always that dance, that fine line of speaking to humans, but also speaking to the search engines without it feeling as if you're a robot and you've just stuffed a whole bunch of keywords in there. So hopefully between all of those, it's a nice little mix of people that are doing a great job in expressing who they are, what their business is all about, showing maybe a little bit of their personal side and their sense of humor, or what they like, what they, what they do on a daily basis, what they like to drink and cappuccino. So think about those things for you. How can you go back in? How can you dust off your bio a little bit and just make it that much better and stronger to where all of a sudden now people can make that connection to you just from those 160 characters?
Thank you, Rebecca, for such a wonderful introduction at the beginning of our webinar. I didn't get to thank you for that. And hello to everybody. And I'm very excited that I get to jump in here to talk about sharing what you're passionate about. Because as Rebecca said just a little while ago, people connect with people. And when you share what you're passionate about, it allows you to humanize your tweets. And that is, in my opinion, one of the main barometers that people use when they're deciding whether or not to follow you. They'll look at, I always look at people's Twitter page and what are they tweeting about, and are they being personal? What is this person passionate about? So don't be shy in letting your personality color your tweets. You definitely want to feel like you can do that. And you know what else too is it makes Twitter more fun, because you don't want it to be all business and stiff. You want to have a good time with it. And the best part about sharing what you're passionate about is it's an easy way to grow your following and increase your engagement. So what you want to do when you're thinking about this is, when people think of you, just think about this. When people think of you, you want them to think of your personality, not just the fact that you're a company, right? You want them to remember something special about you. I'll tell you a great example of this is I noticed last night that Richard Branson, I was just, following my tweet, seeing what was going on, and he tweeted 4 pictures of him playing rugby when he was a kid. And I thought, wow, now when I think of him, I'm going to think of those really cool black and white pictures that he put out there of him playing rugby. And that's a perfect example of sharing what you're passionate about, or something that gives you the warm and fuzzies, because it will probably give somebody else those warm and fuzzies too. You also want to make sure in those tweets that you use the appropriate hashtags, because that way you'll be able to connect with other people that have the same interests. And when you do this, it sparks all kinds of coffee table conversations, which I love that Rebecca always talks about those. And it's a way to engage with people on a more personal level. For me, I'm a Star Wars fanatic, so I always tweet Star Wars. That's like my big thing. And I cannot even tell you how many wonderful connections I have made from that. And I even had Disney and Star Wars send me some things in the mail and ask me to help them promote some of their products, because they know me as being the Star Wars girl that's on there all the time tweeting about Star Wars. So you never know what doors that will open for you. So definitely share what you're passionate about. So now we're going to move on to Twitter lists. Twitter lists are truly the ultimate Twitter organization tool, and you can use them to organize people, and therefore when you organize people, you'll be organizing content, right? So you'll be able to do that using Twitter lists. And I'll tell you that almost every Twitter addict that I know, and when I say Twitter addict, I mean people who tweet all the time, they've got a lot of people they follow, they've got a lot of followers. How do they manage it all? It's with Twitter lists. Because I've had some people say to me, oh, you can't possibly keep up with Twitter and use it as in a useful way when you're following as many people as you are. But you know what? You can. The secret is using your Twitter lists. So it's just a great way to keep your engagement personal and meaningful while still being part of a large crowd. So now let's talk about how you're going to organize your lists. Well, actually, the first thing I'm going to talk about is how to kind of see what they look like in case you're unfamiliar. Let's do that first. So you can go to anybody's page. Since Rebecca was talking about Ask Aaron Lee just a little while ago, I'm going to use him as an example. If you were to go to his page and you click on lists next to his favorites at the top, you will see the lists that he's subscribed to, and the list that he's a member of. You'll be able to see both of them. And there's an avatar pictured to the right of each list, and that's the person who created the list. So if you would like to create a list for yourself, You just go to your own Twitter page, you click on lists, and at the very, very bottom of the page, it's actually kind of hard to find because you wouldn't think you'd have to scroll all the way to the bottom, but just scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see a little button for create list. And you can make it public or private. Either one, you know, if you're going to do a list of your competitors that you want to watch on Twitter, you might want to keep that one private. I have a rock stars list. It's called My Rock Stars, and I have that public. I have been adding to that list for years. Now, that particular list, I've added 503 members to it, and then you can also see the subscribers. 118 people subscribe to that list. Now, for each list that you make, Twitter will give you your own custom URL for it, so you can share it, you can, you know, spread the word, and you can, of course, click on it at any time to edit it or delete it or to see who's subscribing to it. One little trick is make sure you include yourself in your lists, because if somebody comes to your page and they decide to subscribe to your list, you want them to see you in the list too, right? So you want to make sure you include yourself in your lists, because it makes sense that if you're creating a list that it's a topic that you're interested in. So you're right in there with everybody else. Just go ahead and add yourself to that list too. Now you can don't get subscribing to a list confused with following people. It's a little bit different. When you get in there and you play around with them, you'll see that you have the option to subscribe to the full list, or you can follow the individual members on the list. And all of this is it's very easy to figure out once you get on that list page on Twitter. And believe it or not, there's even keyboard shortcuts for lists, and you can just Google that. Twitter's got a whole list of them in this Twitter support page for that. So now let's talk about how are you going to organize those lists that you create. How are you going to optimize them for more engagement? Well, let's see here. You can get creative with it. Who do you want to put in a Twitter list? Rebecca, I actually jumped over to your page today to look at your list, and I love it. You have coffee lovers, tech, digital and social. You have wine tweets, blogging tips list, sales and marketing. It is such a nice mix of personal and professional. I absolutely love that. So I would recommend making a list of people who like to engage on Twitter, because those are very golden special people who will actually engage. So I would absolutely recommend making a list of those people, maybe your coworkers, industry experts, thought leaders. So as far as optimizing your list for engagement, let's talk about how you will be able to utilize those lists. Now, if you're in let's use TweetDeck, which is one of my favorite apps. You can create a column there where you specifically see the people in your list. So maybe during the day, you've got the list open of your coworkers. At night, you close that list. You put your list up of your wine tweets, or however you know, whatever topics you want to access at times of day. So just change those columns out, which takes almost no effort. Okay, Twitter chats, one of my favorite topics. I'm very blessed that I get to co-host Influencer Chat every Tuesday evening with Ann Tran and Rebecca. And Twitter chats are a great place to find people of similar interests and gain followers. The most basic way to follow a chat is to put the chat hashtag into search.twitter.com. So in your browser, you just type search.twitter.com, then in the search box, you type the hashtag and the name of the chat. Again, if you're using a tool like TweetDeck, or you could use TweetChat, there's lots of little tools. You can create a column to just be visible during the chat. Chats are usually in Q&A format, so you'll see, if you're not familiar with Twitter chats, you've probably seen in your Twitter stream a Q1, and it'll be a question, and there'll be people doing an A1 with answers. So you can reply to the questions, answers, and just really get involved with that. It's such a great way to position yourself as a leader in your industry. Storyfy is a great way to recap the chat afterwards for anyone who might have missed it and for you to review it. The key with chats is to stay positive and to be helpful and offer great advice and insight. That's how you really are able to use Twitter chats to increase your following, because people will see you as a leader in that industry. Now, let's talk about how to use them to build credibility. People pay attention more during a chat than they do to ordinary tweets. So it is a fantastic way to make a strong first impression on Twitter. People go to chats to learn about a topic, and they're paying attention. So it's like having hundreds of eyeballs looking at your tweets. And since the bots haven't gotten into the Twitter chats yet, it's just a very effective platform for building credibility and, like I said, showcasing your leadership. And when you're ready, like I said, you might want to, start a chat on your own, and we could do a whole webinar on that, right, Rebecca?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. So let's move on here. So are you struggling to grow a Twitter following? I would absolutely recommend that you get involved in Twitter chats. Like I said, it's a very effective way to grow your Twitter following. Engage with the people during the chat. And another advantage of that is you will be engaging with them real time right in the chat. So there's a lot of back and forth that's happening in that time frame, in a very condensed period of time. It's wonderful. So when you're tweeting somebody, there's a very good chance that they're going to see that tweet right then because they're in the chat. So they'll reply to you. And I follow people in chats all the time, and they're following me back. All this happens right there during that Twitter chat. Okay, so the next thing you want to do on Twitter is you really want to build a loyal and enthusiastic audience. And one of Rebecca's stories, I mean, she's just one of the most amazing role models I've ever had in my life. I learned so much from this woman. And one thing she told me was that when she first got on Twitter, she spent so much time listening before she typed anything. And I thought back, you know what? I did the same thing. Not for a long time. I probably jumped in after maybe a week or two of watching tweets. But I listen too, and if you're brand new to Twitter, I recommend that you spend some time listening. Now, you often hear us say, jump right into the conversation, get in there. But the truth is, communicating effectively in 140 characters takes a little bit of time to learn. It's a little bit different. So I absolutely recommend, don't feel pressured, to get in there that quick. Just listen, watch. Pay attention to the Twitter nuances, the Twitter posture. And then when you get a feel for that, you'll be ready to go. So my next tip, my number one tip for growing your Twitter following is follow other people. That's so important. If you can wait around for people to follow you, and they will, that will definitely happen, but it will take a lot longer. And in this webinar, we're talking about building your Twitter following quickly, right? So follow other people. So important. But at the same time, like we were saying, it's not about the numbers, okay? And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But think about this. Wouldn't it be much better to have 5,000 targeted followers who are watching your tweets? Wouldn't it be better to have that than 10,000 followers who don't really care, right? They don't care about your tweets. They're not paying attention anyway. The 5,000 would be so much better. So always think to yourself, quality over quantity. It makes a big difference. I follow 48,000 people on Twitter, and I have 131,000 followers. So that's 48,000 and 131. If you're wondering how I manage the numbers, just from a number standpoint, I'll tell you that the secret is manage Flitter. And I say this because I can't tell you how many social media influencers I talk to. As a matter of fact, Rebecca, when I talked to Ross on Skype, we both laughed about this. We're like, what do you use? What do you use? Oh, it's Manage Flitter. But it's great because what I'm able to do is I can go in there and unfollow. I go in there maybe once a week and I unfollow everybody who's inactive, okay? Anybody who hasn't tweeted in the last 60 days, I'll unfollow them, and then I'll find new people in my niche, people that my friends follow who I know are engaging, and I will follow those people. So I probably unfollow and follow about 1,000 people a week. Now, if you're just starting out on Twitter, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that seems like a lot. Well, guess what? Just as of yesterday, Twitter increased the follow limit from 2,000 to 5,000. In my personal opinion, when you're starting out on Twitter, 5,000 people, oh my gosh, that would be way overwhelming. But you can do it now if you choose to take that path. So what that means is you can follow 5,000 people on your first day you sign up. And then at that point, you can't follow more until your ratio of followers to following is more closely aligned. And it used to be a standard 10% ratio, but now it seems to be different for different users. But the point is you can follow more up front, which takes me back to the Twitter list. This is all the more reason why it's so important to start using Twitter lists, from the very beginning. Okay, so now the real goodness, the real Twitter goodness, success comes from relationship building. That, in my mind, the way I think about the relationship building is that Twitter success begins with sending tweets, right? That's the first half of it. But take it all the way. Build the relationships, because that's where the true gold in the whole process lies. Just take it all the way, build those connections. I'm telling you, those people will become your lifelong friends, brand ambassadors, evangelists. The strong, loyal relationships that you build on Twitter, you will find them to be priceless, and they're absolutely worth the time. So now let's jump into how to write a tweet worth reading. Believe it or not, and if you look at this slide, when I was looking at this earlier today, I was thinking, wow, most tweets suck. That's pretty much the gist of it. Because the meat and potatoes of Twitter are the tweets we're sending, right? So let's not send bad tweets. Let's figure out how to send good tweets. And let me tell you the reason why. Twitter gives people who send yucky tweets, Twitter gives you a lot of options for how to deal with those people. You can unfollow them, you can mute them, you can block them, you can ignore their retweets. And let's face it, if you're not getting to your followers' timeline, you're not getting your message out. So focus on providing value in your tweets, and you will stay in front of your followers. And again, it seems like I'm tying everything here back to Twitter lists, but a positive sign, just a little feedback for you that you're sending good tweets, is you will notice that a lot of people are adding you to their Twitter lists. When I see that in my notifications, this person added you to this list, and I see that, I'm thinking, okay, the tweets I must have been sending lately, they must be good because people are listing me. So use that as a little guide too. If you start seeing that, that's your positive reinforcement. So what is going to make up that 36% of good tweets? Well, let's talk about what tweeting great content is all about. Again, critical to send good tweets. So what makes up a good tweet? Well, this little list here that we've put together are only general guidelines. There are exceptions to every single rule. So first of all, is the tweet in your niche? Not all tweets need to be specialized like that, but the majority of them do. And that is because that's one of the main reasons that people are going to follow you, right? Because they're interested in what you're tweeting about. I will tell you that Rebecca, you brought up Peg Fitzpatrick a little while ago, and she's such a special person to so many of us. And I remember several years ago, I was talking to her, and she said, I said, Peg, how do you decide what you're going to tweet? And she said, I choose 3 or 4 topics, and I stick to those. And I don't tweet anything that are off those topics. And ever since then, I've thought that to myself. So for me personally, I tweet about social media, I tweet about tech, I tweet about Star Wars, and I tweet about geeky topics. That's what I tweet about, and I try my very best to stay in that little sphere. So another thing, good tweets inspire people, they teach them something new, or they make them laugh. You want people to read your tweets, and you know what? Whether it's a little life hack to make their day easier, or whether you're giving them a little giggle in the middle of their workday, that's a good tweet. Your tweet has done its job. The third criteria for being a perfect tweet is it credits the proper source. This is so important. I know a lot of people who will not tweet a blog post if it's not properly credited. It's the same thing with your tweets. If you're tweeting something and you're not giving credit, it's just, you don't want to do that. You want to give credit where credit's due. It's very important. The next one on the list here is that a perfect tweet has an image and a shortened link. That's important because, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but the most successful tweets, according to HubSpot's research, are tweets that have an image and a shortened link. So give your tweet a little jump start. Give it a little momentum right from the get go, and format it in that way. A perfect tweet has an appropriate hashtag or two. You always want to do your hashtag research and include your hashtags in your tweets. And then the perfect tweet is posted at the right time. And you want to post your tweets, obviously, when the majority of your followers are online. And there's many tools you can use to help you determine this. Also, you can look at your Twitter analytics for help with this. And Rebecca's going to cover that in a few minutes. And another quick little thing that I'll say, which isn't on this little graphic here, is I don't know if any of you use those multi-line tweets. I'm noticing that they're becoming more and more popular, and it's such a great way to stand out in your Twitter feed. But back in 2013, Twitter made it possible to add line breaks to tweets, and it's so much fun to do those. So you'll have to do a little research on that to see what I'm talking about if you don't know. But that's a great way to kind of stand out in the crowd. So, yeah, let's see. Where are we here, Rebecca? I think you're up.
Well, and I was just going to mention there's tons of great comments, questions, and we're going to stick around just so everybody knows. We'll stick around for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and we want to make sure we can answer every single question. But Chris asked a great question that I think we will definitely touch on, Diana, at the end, which is you've talked about appropriate number of times. How do you know what's appropriate? And that could be a whole topic in and of itself. So I just wanted to make mention, Chris, excellent question, and so many others. So if you are able to stick around, we've got about 20 minutes more to the presentation itself, and then we'll be here to answer all of those. And in the meantime, Leanne is getting to as many as she can, but ones like that are pretty complex that we'll definitely want to touch on might take just a little bit more time. So next key piece is recycling your successful tweets. And one area I see overlooked all the time is getting your content, your great content, back out there in front of people over and over and over again. And it could be laziness, of course. You tweet it once, you're done. But I think a lot of it is the fear of spamming your feed. And you definitely want to be aware of that. But look to what did really well, what resonated with your followers, what got shared, what are people creating a conversation around that, hey, you probably want to get back out there and you want to share again. And it could be a blog post. So maybe you wrote something recently and you want to get it back out there, but make sure that you're looking to your Twitter analytics. There are a lot of different tools, but I'll tell you, Twitter analytics in and of itself, super robust in the information that it shares with you. And you're able to see exactly what I was just talking about. How is it resonating? How are people interacting with that content? Are they resharing it? Are you getting a sizable amount of impressions that you're able to see that people are actually interested in your information? They're engaging with your content, because what that's going to do is start to give you really important insight into, well, that tweet landed with, a dull thud. Nobody cared about it. Or, wow, I had no idea that tweet would take off in the way that it did. So you can use other tools like mytoptweet.com, great tool that will actually go through your last 3,200 tweets, and they'll pull out the top 10. So your top 10 tweets over a period of time that you can see, wow, okay, I had no idea that this particular tweet had optimized Twitter for maximum small business results, got 57 retweets, 58 people favorited that tweet. That might be something that I want to come back and filter through if I haven't done that already. So really good, really super important as you're out there tweeting that you're taking the time to analyze and really assess what's working and what's not, and obviously do more of what's working and less of what's not. And then next is mixing up your headlines and your content. Another area where people maybe you get a little nervous about being too creative, or you're not quite sure how to combine different context with the content. But the best way to bring your content to life is to add context around it. And Kim Garst, who I had the pleasure of being on a blab with yesterday, does such a great job at this. She is able to put context around maybe a quote like she's got here, and just really draw you in, let you feel as if, oh my gosh, totally get what you're saying, and instantly make that connection. So context is that bridge for you between your content and people really understanding what you're trying to get across. So think of it like text. Text is kind of like email, where it can feel a little ambiguous sometimes. You don't quite know where people are coming from. You're not quite sure how to interpret it. So use context to let people gain that insight into what made that content special. Why are you retweeting it? Why are you sharing it? And why should they actually stand up and take notice? And then if you want to create better tweets, beyond those headlines, beyond that context, you want to analyze your headlines to really create predictive results within your tweets. So you could use a tool like CoSchedule to analyze each of your headlines for effectiveness. And CoSchedule is a fun tool. If you haven't used it before, it's a free tool where you plug in your headline. And here we were actually able to achieve an A+ rating, where it says, nice work. Your headline contains a good balance of word types. So it's looking at how many common words are you using, uncommon, emotional, power, and how are you tapping into those feelings of your Twitter followers. So it's fun to use some tools like that just to get a better feel for how your audience might respond. But obviously, the most important critical piece, and I can't stress it enough, is just to pay attention to what you're tweeting out, pay attention to how people are responding, and pay attention to the data, because data, those numbers never lie. They always tell you the real story. But these are just some fun, different ways to inject maybe a little bit more personality into your content if you don't feel that creative. And we all have those days where we hit the creative wall. It's just a way for you to get some feedback on maybe what you could tweak to make it a little bit more effective and give you those predictive results. Next is creating eye-catching images. We all know how important visual content is, and HubSpot had done some research and found that tweets with images receive 18% more clicks, 89% more favorites, and 150% more retweets. That's like drop the mic moment, right? Huge, huge to see what visual content can do for your tweets. So definitely get that visual content into your tweets. Does it have to be every single one? Absolutely not. We highly recommend a mix of images, of just those text-based tweets where you're just having a conversation, or maybe it's a quote, and then also really important relevant content that links out to either your content, to other people's content, that shares details or news or tips or how-tos around that content, those topics that are really important to both you and your followers. Next up is don't be afraid to use bold colors. And if you saw that last slide, that is my brand color, which is orange. And when I first started my company many years ago and was trying to nail down my brand colors, orange has always been a color that's really resonated with me. And I looked to the color wheel to kind of get a feel for, what emotions did it create in other people? How does it make people feel? Well, it's friendly. friendly, it's cheerful, it's confident. So as you're looking at those colors, if you haven't really nailed down your brand colors, think about what feels right for you, for your business. Are you optimistic? Are you sunshiny in your personality? Are you excited? Are you bold? Are you trustworthy? Are you trying to really impart strength and dependability? And then you can look at all of the different brands and how they're using those colors within their branding to see what makes the most sense for you as well, and how can you start to use those within your visuals on Twitter. How can you start to insert those colors into everything that you're doing?
And as a brand, you have an incredible opportunity to do what a lot of brands don't take time to do, and that is tie your visuals back into your brand and your brand messaging. And Starbucks, Nike, GoPro, they're all fantastic examples of brands who nail this time and time again. It does force you to put more thought into your images, but the payoff is huge. When I look at this image right here from Nike, I can almost hear that guy going, before he runs up those stairs again, probably for the 50th time. You get that whole message in that image, so it's so important. Okay, now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about video and how you can use video to increase your engagement. Video is one of those things. It allows you to jump off the page and just be right there with your reader. It allows you to express yourself in ways that you just simply can't do with text. I read something today that said 40 years worth of video is watched on Periscope daily. So video is hot. It allows you to connect with your followers on a whole new level, and just social video is huge. And whether it's a 5-second Belfie, a 6-second Vine, a 30-second tutorial, it doesn't matter. If it's done well, it will be powerful. And the reason I said 30 seconds, by the way, that is the maximum length your Twitter video can be. And Twitter just actually enhanced their video feature earlier this month. So I was going to go into that, but we're running short on time. But definitely Google that, check it out, because now you can actually upload video directly from your desktop, and it's a huge enhancement in Twitter's. They bought Periscope. They're really trying to make a stand in the video sphere. Let's talk about making your video personal. Again, video allows you to show your human side. Let people see you. Let them see your quirks. Let them hear you. Maybe you have an accent. Let them relate to you on that whole new level. Relationship building through video is very powerful, and just be sure your video has a purpose. Is it to teach your viewers something new? Is it to get them to your website? Is it to show them that Starbucks red cups are back? Yay! Is it to show them that you're out, at Starbucks? Whatever it is, all of those types of videos have their place and they serve their purpose. Now we're going to talk about connecting with influencers the right way. You want to follow influencers in your niche. It's so important. Share their content, reply to their tweets, and engage is so important to do. And the reason why you don't want to, everybody is an influencer in their own way. I want to be very clear about that. But the reason influencers can make your Twitter job easier is they can increase your reach and exposure exponentially compared to what you would have to do if you were just doing all the heavy lifting yourself. So how do you connect with an influencer? Well, first, be a good tweeter, right? Don't be negative. Don't whine. Don't gossip. Don't be a butt, be a good tweeter. Secondly, connect with influencers just like you would anyone else on Twitter. You don't need to do the crazy things people do. People try to suck up and all this crazy stuff. No, don't do any of that. Just mention them and engage with them and retweet with them and list them and do whatever you would do with anyone else who you were trying to connect with on Twitter. Maybe offer to do something valuable for them. Maybe offer to write a guest post on their blog. But I'll tell you what not to do if you don't want to be ignored by an influencer is don't spam them. So many people say, "Oh, will you please review my app or retweet about my YouTube video?" But I don't even know you. Why do I want to do this? So you don't want to spam. You want to do it the right way. Rebecca, I know would like for you to speak on this because you are one of the most influential women on Twitter. So I would really like for you to speak about this just for a moment, if you would.
I think you pretty much nailed it. I think it's giving an enormous amount of value without any expectation. It's going out there, maybe sharing their content, maybe just having a conversation. And I love your point. Everybody is an influencer. We all have influence within our space, within our industry, and it's just being real, being a normal human being, as you said, that you look at it as, is this a conversation I would have in the offline world? And could I possibly be a benefit to those people? Could I somehow, create a deeper, more meaningful connection with these people? And we talk a lot about influence marketing, and there are definite benefits to it, just in making those connections, being able to expand your network. But I think you said it. It's just making those connections in a very natural and authentic way. And I know we talk about authenticity a lot, but it doesn't make it any less relevant these days to just be that person that wants to always pay it forward, that always wants to give more than you ever expect to receive. And if you go into any relationship like that, it's going to be a win win.
You are so true. I think about Ann Tran, and I know she tweets that a lot. Give before you expect to receive. It's a powerful principle in life that can also be applied to Twitter.
And I'm going to keep us on track real quick here, Diana. We have 6 minutes,
Oh, sure.
just so you
Yes.
know.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's start double timing it. Let's talk about using a URL shortener. There is some controversy around using URL shorteners on Twitter, but I definitely think the pros outweigh the cons. If nothing else, I mean, it's going to make your tweet visually appealing. Plus, it will give people an opportunity to retweet you in more than one way, right? If you don't use the URL shortener, they can only hit the retweet button unless they open the link and shorten it themselves. A lot of people like to do that old style Twitter retweet so they can add a comment, and they can only use that if you have a shortened URL so they can copy and paste. So there's all kinds of benefits to using a shortened URL. And I think right now we'll just jump over to sharing other people's content because that is such an important part of it's really a pillar in most content curation formulas. Sharing other people's content isn't about just being nice, right? It's so many more benefits than that. Um, Make sure, let me just hit on a couple of key points. Make sure that you're giving proper credit in all of you when you're sharing other people's content. I try to fit as many usernames in there as I can. If I can, I fit the username of the blog, or I'll put the person who originally tweeted it. I'll try to get the author in there if I'm tweeting a blog post, to get as much in there as I can because it's such a great way to start building a new Twitter relationship. Where's the place to get other people's content? We're tying it all back to Twitter lists here. Look at your list. You put those people on a list for a reason, because you like their content. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Rebecca, for the calls to action.
And that call to action, just one of those big missed opportunities that we see an awful lot, that can really boost your interaction just by thinking it through. What is that next step you want people to take? So it could be, please retweet. Studies show that just the simple act of asking for a retweet will increase your retweets by 12 times. So another one of those big stats. Maybe it's, click here to download. Please reply. Tweet the answer for a chance to win. Use the hashtag to join the conversation. So just think through, like I said, what is that next step that you want people to take within your content? It could be clicking, it could be responding, it could be retweeting, but never, ever, ever be afraid to guide people through that process. You don't want to assume that they know what that next step is. Getting local. If you have a local business, if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, this is so important that you are making those local connections and really getting hyper focused on your area. So I took a look at one tool which I have used for years just to get an idea of how many people are tweeting. And of course, I'm in a large metropolitan area in Los Angeles, but Twello Hood is a wonderful tool that Twello in and of itself, great tool, but Twello Hood is what lets you get really, really local and find and connect with those potential customers, maybe peers, and you can do that research just based off of what we talked about at the beginning, those keywords, those hashtags, those topics that people are talking around that are really important to you, to your business, and to maybe those potential customers that are out there talking about it. So great way for you to start to make connections, but insert yourself into those conversations. And then as we start to wrap it up, you want to really start to think about strategically how many tweets are you sending out? How are you going to easily do this, get your content out there without you having to be on Twitter every single moment of every day, right? And that's where the big debate of automation and scheduling comes in. And we are huge fans of using automation in the right way. So scheduling out content that you've gone out there, you've found, you've as Diana was just showing, maybe one of those tweets, you've found somebody's information just incredibly useful and beneficial. You've added all of the attribution to that, and now you can just drop it in and get it scheduled so that you don't have to be on Twitter all the time. You can actually just come into Twitter and engage and create those conversations. So depending on how much you want to tweet, it's definitely going to be something you're going to have to pay attention to. We tweet anywhere from 9 to 13 times per day, sometimes a whole lot more. And it's going to be something, again, that you'll have to spend a little bit of time just identifying how much content is your audience looking to consume? And then from there, it's rinsing and repeating. So identifying what's working, identifying what's not working, making those necessary tweaks, and then just doing it over and over and over again. So figuring out how can you clean up your bio, that's the first place for you to start. Figuring out how you can connect the dots with all of your branding. So with those visuals, how can they tell a better story about your company? Then it's actually getting involved, getting in there, building up your followers, getting in the conversation, retweeting other people's content, creating valuable content that other people want to share, that they get enthusiastic and excited about, and then making sure that you're really analyzing, assessing what's working, and doing that day in and day out, because we all know consistency wins. So finally, and thank you to everybody who has been here. We would love to invite you to become a part of the Post Planner family. Everything we talked about here today with Twitter is exactly what our app is built to help you to do. So with our scientifically proven viral content, you're going to triple your retweets, your follows, your clicks, because you're going to be getting out there in a consistent way and sharing what we have already proven is content that has virality to it. It's either, maybe links, it could be the viral content that I mentioned here. It could be our status ideas that you could tap into just thousands of different ideas of what conversations, little tidbits you could be sharing on Twitter that are going to help your interaction and your engagement. So we're going to offer to you today 30% off our Love Annual. So that means it's just $5 per month, billed annually. You can use this coupon code here, GWLoveTW. And Leanne, make sure to get that tweeted out from from our Post Planner Twitter handle, which Diana and I will tweet that out as well. We also have a shortened URL that'll take you right there to our website, and you can find out everything you've ever wanted to know about Post Planner and how we can help you with not just your Facebook, but definitely your Twitter engagement as well. So thank you from both Diana and I. Thank you again for being here today. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye and stop the recording.